also had either once or twice in our lobby that we followed, Peter, and also once over on the other side was Dragon Alliance coming through. One of the things I really like to see from some of these top players who we're following at the moment is the fact that when that opportunity presents itself, people grab onto it, and so regularly it's securing top threes.
So for me, one of the big takeaways from Game 1 was how we had our top player coming in, Laser Octopus, going for the AFK augment. They played very close to the sun. Unfortunately, it did not pay off for them, and they ultimately ended up going out in 8th. Honestly, that was the most shocking thing to me about that lobby, considering the comps we ended up with. For having our #1 player go out in 8th straight away, it shows the level of competition we have here.
Yeah, very much a wax feathers situation there, unfortunately, for Laser Octopus, and they're going to have to do something pretty dramatically impressive to fight back. But as you said, for now, we're really going to focus towards some of those top players, because if we see the likes of brubbba, for instance, getting another first, another second here, they are getting closer and closer to getting that berth into our massive event, which will be the Superbrawl coming very soon.
So we can see, actually, it's going to be Laser Octopus who finds the early Olaf, but for brubbba, they've got themselves the early Diana as well to try and lure them back down that path. We know in this particular lobby, it's going to be a little bit trickier, though, as a Cavalier Crest. You're going to do it all over again. We know you love it.
Oh, I genuinely want it to happen. You know what? If it's not broke, don't fix it could be the motto for brubbba here. Let's see if they want to show their flexibility, or if they are happy to say, this is what the gods want from me.
Apparently, it's going to be all day, every day, Cavaliers everywhere you look, but Diana didn't end up being kept there, interestingly enough, for brubbba, so maybe they've got a different angle in mind.
Maybe they have. Maybe that's going to be a Cavalier emblem going on to something like the, what is it that we so often say, on the Yasuo with a placeholder of the Yone, and then they could opt into the Mirage. What is our Mirage this time round?
It's Executioner's Edge, so that's going to reward players who've got a lot of damage in there because they're going to be critting every single time, or more or less every single time. We've got the Cavalier frontline to start us off, but yeah, I think you're right. brubbba suddenly seems like they're headed more towards the Mirage way, especially with that Giant Slayer being locked down early. Impossible to get the bonus damage, but later on, we've seen what a Deja can do with it.
We know that for a fact, but it will be a Deja that needs to build around some attack speed items this time, whereas Julius was doing that work for it, and we could see a little bit of variance from our builds. Laser Octopus having a rough start of things again, Peter, dropping those opening couple of games, opting into, trying to put my finger on exactly what emblem that is for our augment.
Sunfire, so that's going to burn the entire board, but one thing it importantly doesn't do for Laser Octopus, like we saw from before, is it doesn't kickstart their economy. And right now, they've got a setup where they're trying to get their Olaf killed over and over again to build up for the late game. But I'm not sure with the Sunfire they're going to get, rewarded in the same way they might with, say, a Rich Get Richer.
Very true, and I do think it's going to be a little bit of a tricky way to build things up, and Laser Octopus could be fighting hard to avoid getting a bottom 4 placement again. Still plenty of time in this game to go, still lots still to happen. Over here we can see that Temlozz has been able to secure a couple of trainers early on, happy to pair that one up, getting, not quite getting Revel going, but getting the Bruisers going through TK and Skarner. Nomsy, despite just being that bronze level, going untouched by all of the Warriors, will be able to help deliver a nice victory, a second in a row for Temlozz. The same can be said for Slicks, brubbba and Frozak still duking it out.
Yeah, Temlozz looks like they're going to be going down pretty much the same route as they have from before. Ascension in the pocket for them, and a decent start to their win streak. It's Frozak and Slicks currently winning right now as 3 sets, breaking my heart, coming through in the shop. When Great Heart will be good enough to see a set reroll composition?
Well, it had one victory yesterday, Peter, but it was very much so a solitary victory. Every time we caught it on stream, it either arrived too late or didn't hit hard enough, wasn't itemized well enough to make it anything like what it was near when this set first came out.
We check in with Slicks, and we do have another early visit to the gold mine. They've got the Shimmer Scale up and running straight away, but so does staig. You can see that's a needlessly big gem, which will pay off our Shimmer Scale players, particularly if they can get some dominant rounds in and keep multiple units alive to the end of round.
Something that I'm not sure we saw picking up any wins yesterday, Peter, but that did hit relatively consistently top threes was a Volibear reroll, getting up towards 3-star because it's so often uncontested. However, when you go straight into a fight like this early on between Slicks and rovskagg and you see each other going towards Shimmer Scale, you question whether or not you're actually going to be able to do that.
All right, let's check in with some of the players we haven't seen their comps as of yet. So Tiaan with the Mirage set up for early on. And who else haven't we got so far? We may have seen them and just haven't noticed it down here on my big pile of player comps. One thing we have to look out for, though, is Laser Octopus. They have gotten themselves an early Spatula, and we know that they were trying to grow that Olaf into a big, old, impressive Olaf later on.
There's a chance to be going towards the Assassin Olaf we've seen so often, or possibly even the Cavalier Olaf that had success in the last game. We'll keep you updated on that one as it goes. This is a crunch game for Laser Octopus, who yet again, almost playing AFK, dropping 22 health in those opening rounds.
Oh boy, yes, without the money to pay him off. Let's see. So we've got Fisk, who is running themselves oh my gosh, we have barely seen this at all. We've got finally seeing the Ezreal Karma reroll composition that's been pretty much absent everywhere else.
So this is one of your personal favorites. We play a lot of double up, and there are people out there in chat asking, is this a doubles game? No, this is purely singles. It's everyone for themselves. But you and I, we like to play our double ups, and this is one of the ones that you often like to play into and you find that you can get good success with.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you get the early comp setup going like we've got here for this, it can work extremely well. It is going to be very, very augment dependent on whether or not this comp can really cap out to maximum power. And we may well see Fisks jump out if the augments don't land that way. It's still a great item holding setup for Jade later on, or indeed for any kind of AP. I think Fisk
is that Jade Crown they've got their hands on?
I'm trying to remember which particular Jade thing it is. I think it might be the Penitence one, which causes them to be disarmed when attacking the Jade statue.
Jade out.
But again, it does mean that even if we're not going for the Karma reroll, we are locked into some kind of Jade for the rest of the game.
And it's looking quite likely it's not going to be said Karma reroll, as they're not opting to pick up things like the Taric here, but at the very least, you know, we get to see something with the Jade. Last time round for Frozak, they went for this and it was uncontested. And even despite that, despite getting Xiaoyu up to a relatively decent power level, they still dropped out in the bottom 4. I'm not sure Jade is quite at its strongest right now, short of when we saw the 3-star Xiaoyu the other day. Let's see if we can have more success coming with fiskskagg. They're certainly having a good early game. They're now coming up against rovskagg, who in turn is trying to rip through the health bars. They need to take out this Lee Sin pretty promptly, however, to have even a chance. Ascension is going to kick in. Twitch is going to be able to throw down the cast, get a good bit of poison out, is going to get popped off by a Mystic Shot before they can take any further down.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of what we've got going on from Staig. This is me going to be, you know, exposing my my knowledge of the game for all to see. But what Staig has got going for them right now is a big loss streak, and needlessly Big Gem does not play terribly well into that, because when you're losing, you don't have many units left, so you're not getting paid off in the same way we have seen for Slicks. So let's compare and contrast here. They have put the money into getting early levels, more units on the board, which means a bigger payout for the gem when it does go off.
Makes a lot more sense. Is it possible to just have a quick look over towards Frozak, who's win streaking at the minute?
Oh yes, of course. Along with Tiaan, they're undefeated. And everyone's favourite augment, and somewhat favourite choice, the Blitzcrank Hook. Certainly one of the more annoying augments.
It really is, and basically it just means you can get yourself a Thresh, and maybe even arguably better than a Thresh at this point, because it just gets the full pull on, but it can be negated quite easily by a nice bit of placement. I'm trying to work out why it is that Tiaan is up to 100 health but isn't on the win streak at this point.
That's a good question. Let's go find out. It's because they have got the Metabolic Accelerator in place, which means that while they are not on a full win streak, they've healed up the little damage they have taken, which is particularly impressive given that this augment isn't doing anything for them at all combat-wise.
It's not, but they've got themselves a strong set of units early on. Got that Heart of Justice. I always get mixed up between a Hand of Justice and a Heart of Justice.
There is no Heart of Justice.
It's just yeah. It's been
been so long.
It's, you know, when you get like something that you've said enough times that even though it's clearly wrong, it's in your head. It's just one of those moments for me. And we're seeing double of it here. Double justice for all. But right now it's going to be the trainers getting the worst of this fight. Oof. They get slain. Laser Octopus continues this loss streak. It just almost feels like their heart of justice isn't in it.
Oh my gosh, if only they had a heart of gold instead. Maybe they could stack up 6 of them and just play the game that way. Still, our shimmer scales are pretty similar to that. If any of you don't get the deep cut references, oh my gosh, a shimmer scale crest. We are in the area. The crown awaits for staig. They may not have had the best start with the shimmer scale comp, but their end game should be transcendent.
That will be beautiful to see if it happens, and they're getting closer and closer to it. As you're saying there, things are looking like they're going to start flipping quite nicely for rovskagg. Meanwhile, however, Tiaan is continuing this strong win streak early on. Everything looking good. They themselves up to 4 scale score, getting good damage down, getting the early 2-star on the Olaf and the Diana means that they are absolutely putting out solid DPS and ripping through health bars, as is clear by the win streak.
And of course, we know who this is bad news for, that Tiaan is up at this point and doing well. It's going to be for Laser Octopus, who's also trying to build up an Olaf comp. And of course, Frozak, who's also in scale score to an extent by taking the Leers as well. It is, you know, we've seen this so many times across the tournament. You know, we just see the clusters of a particular style of play coming through. And when that happens, really only one or maybe maximum of 2 players can really come out of the lobby well.
So just turning my attention over Twitch chat briefly, and people asking in regards to the other lobby that's going on. We won't be following that one simultaneously, as we can only cast the one game at a time. However, on the back of this, our second game, the lobbies will be changed. 4 players from each will go up against 4 players from the other. So we'll follow those lobbies for the next 2 games before finally dropping into a third set of rearranged lobbies for the final 2 games of the day. So we're going to be following plenty of the players. There is the possibility that maybe your favorite player might not get cast on stream, but we try and cast as many as we possibly can.
Yeah, so we are very much interested in our very tippy top of the players today. We're trying to be a little bit more spread out from before, but now it's all about hitting that top 3 for Laser Octopus. Said contested, they have switched tack from what they were doing before. No more Olaf, instead coming into trainer a little late, but I think it's the right decision when you know that too many other players are going down the Olaf route.
I think that the pivot is correct. What the pivot has gone to, I'm not quite so convinced. As you say, getting to Nomsy so late means that it's going to be a long old time before we even get to Silver Nomsy. There's so many 1-star units here that I think yet more health is going to be lost for Laser Octopus. And right now, they're going to be at death's door, not even just before Dragon, but almost at this point before we get to Wolves.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You know, going from one contested comp to another one. At least, to be fair, Trainer isn't as contested in this game because we've got multiple players going for Shimmer Scale, multiple players, you know, going for the Scale Scores as well. So some of the routes would normally be incredibly trafficked aren't. But yeah, Laser Octopus, they have to get Trainer and 3 in, otherwise they're never going to get anywhere. They will grab themselves another Lulu, and I wonder if that might just be for the chance to get up to Lulu 2 faster.
I think it's more about the second spatula.
Oh, they have one already? I didn't even notice.
Is that right? I think it was Laser Octopus who picked it up before. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we'll find out in a second if that is true. That's massive news, because Laser Octopus, they need a huge turnaround moment, and getting a Tactician's Crown would be exactly that.
Okay, meanwhile, Slick's taking their time before eventually picking up the Negatron Cloak. They're going to be dropping back onto their board and doing what they can. Meanwhile, can we just get a little look
let's go take
towards Laser Octopus? Yeah, there it is.
Yes, it was. Good call. All right. They've still got very little room to work with. I think we might be seeing... Okay, so there we go. We've got the 2-star Lulu coming in. That's going to be a whole bunch of extra people on the field. Should be able to allow them to get out Mage 3 a little bit faster, which would make a fairly big difference. No, actually, it's the Idis instead.
Yeah, I really like that change, giving them the Shimmer Scale item as well. Even though it's not an ideal first Shimmer Scale item, it's also going to give you a huge amount of tankiness on the front side alongside the Silas. Not quite getting up to Mage, probably a little bit of a disappointment, but we can look towards that a little bit later. Maybe this is just going to be enough, getting up to 8 units to buy themselves a little bit of time. Now we can start seeing that backline doing good damage, but over on the other side of the screen, up until that crescendo, they'd gone fairly untouched, but with one last set of chompers ripping through, that's the win Octopus so desperately needed.
That was against Staig there, who is building up towards the Shimmer Scale 9, so we'll keep an eye out for them as long as they can get there. Tiaan, though, remains sitting atop the heap, completely undefeated so far this game. We might even be seeing a double Olaf win in our first set of plays.
So yeah, Tiaan are having a nice time here as rocking up to a 7-win streak. So they have had a couple of losses, but as you pointed out earlier on, because of their choice of augment, they're healing up as well. So they're just, every time they're losing, they're bouncing straight back up to 100 because of the win streaks they're getting on the back of it.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I got confused because of the same thing I explained before. Oh boy. Well, live and learn, I suppose. As we've got the Shimmer Scales coming to the battlefield, this is Staig again, trying to turn these losses from before into a win streak. They've got themselves the Aatrox carrying a lot of their items right now, which is maybe going to be a little bit less than optimal, and it's not going to allow them to get their round wins in they would really like to be getting.
Really, really close battle, but it goes in favor of our chip leader as we head into Wolves. Laser Octopus able to stabilize, keeping themselves at 27 health, not going to drop out in an embarrassingly early situation, and actually slowly pulling themselves closer to some of the other pack who have been losing. We saw rovskagg have that loss against Octopus. Brubbba, our winner from last time, dropping down to half health as well.
Let's go check in with what brubbba is up to. So they've got themselves the early Cavalier. You mentioned it's going to be the Executioner's Edge. So we would be expecting brubbba to be going heavily into Mirage. They're a little short of the level 7 where they really expect them to start getting this comp online in a serious way. But their frontline is good. And what? They get an entire Mirage spatula dropped at once? That's illegal.
That is what you call rather good luck. Let's see what they put it towards in just a moment. But for now, we can... just see this nice little setup, trainers being built up, but because trainers only just come in, again, we're so far away from even the silver Nomsy, not going to be doing a huge amount of anything just yet.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very temporary substitute for Deja until one comes online. It doesn't look like brubba's willing to roll down at this point. I think that's fair. 50 HP is not a ton, but it's not, you know, emergency stations. However, for Slicks, we saw from before running the Shimmer early, it looks like they've actually changed things up a little bit now and going down the Siphon route.
I do like that because we've seen so many contesting the Shiver Siphon is going to be able to get another charge off. They turn the blast of damage, however, onto the Hecarim rather than the Tristana, and with that Mirage Spatula now triggering beautifully, Tristana's able to find that last little bit of critical damage that is needed for brubbba to pick up yet another win. Now all of a sudden we see all of the bottom 3 starting to pick up relatively consistent wins, and that's just bad news for the rest of the field as everyone gets dragged in a little bit closer, Tiaan even losing their win streak.
Of course, we talked about how influential prismatic augments can be, but instead we've had a very low augment power lobby, which means that, you know, the power comes directly from the comps themselves, particularly, you know, in this case like Mirage, where, you know, compared to what other people are able to put out with their augments, this could well be the one to really influence and take over. Laser Octopus still down on 27. They're going to be, let's see what they're going to be picking up. They're actually re-rolling, looking for something pretty specific. I don't know if they found it. So they go for the most generic one instead.
And it's just going to be a ZZ Rot portal, which has its uses, but if we're really honest, probably isn't what Laser Octopus would have been hoping for as they look to stem the bleeding of their health. And they've done pretty nicely. Last 3 wins gone their way. Now they go up against brubbba, who we saw picking up victory on the back of the Mirage Spat that dropped. This is going to be a pretty crucial game as we look towards who might be ending this game in 8th place.
Oh boy, brubbba.
Nice crescendo.
Yeah, going right into the pretend Deja on the backline of brubbba. Tristan's going to be doing her best, but Nunu is doing a ton of work on the front line. I think this could be a big L for Laser Octopus. The last bit of damage coming in. Laser, every loss pushing them closer to elimination. If they take another 8th, oh boy. The Laser Octopus hype train, it needs to be real, Greyheart.
I think that train may have gone off the tracks at this point, unfortunately. I'm not sure Monty's going to be there with his conductor whistle anytime soon. And at the moment, things seems to be going from bad to worse for Laser Octopus as they drop down below 20 HP. One thing I noticed in that fight, I'm a big advocate for CC and TFT, and I feel like when you get your hands on the best CC, whether it be from the Tempest early on or if it's maybe a Sona Crescendo, that can do great things. In that fight, it felt like it was all about the double onslaught of shadows we saw coming out of the Hecarim, getting that fear onto pretty much the entirety of the back line and just buying so much time for Nunu and the rest of the team to do the work.
We check in with Temlozz here. We can see a very, very direct path forward from here. We've got the Corki set up. We've got the Sona set up. We just don't actually have the Corki or the Sona as of yet, which means Temlozz is going to tumble further down the table. Hopefully they'll be able to hit at least the 1-star versions of the carries to get their comp online in a more serious way. Temlozz, after the last game, finished out in 5th. Again, like everyone, needs to get a very strong finish in this game.
And it's not looking that way at the moment. Octopus picking up a victory, stabilizing very briefly. They hit level 8 just before that fight started, got the Corki out as their 9th unit, courtesy of the Tactician's Crown. Now they need to try and get what they possibly can. They're able to find another Corki with the crit attached to it. Hopefully, I'll start itemizing that, getting an extra damage dealer out. It's going to be tough for them to catch up with someone like Tiaan, who's 80 hit points up above, especially with the extra health being regenerated for them. However, at the very least, maybe they can pull themselves back to a top 4 finish and just about keep the train slowly rolling towards the station.
Let's go check out what Tiaan is up to. So, as we mentioned, that from the very start of the game, the metabolic accelerator in place. I'm just honestly astonished by how well Tiaan is doing here. Normally speaking, you take a loss streak, you go down to the mid-table, and you'd heal back up by going on the win streak afterwards. Instead, wait, I'm just going to double check. That is an Olaf 3 at 4-5, showing us exactly how it's done.
Yeah, I was just going to wait until you'd finished talking about the healing there, because brubbba has managed to get a 3-star Olaf in game 1, taking the win with it, but it took until so late in the game to finally get that 9th Olaf. Here, Olaf is coming to the fore so much earlier and already is just wrecking face. That Runan's meaning that the damage is being spread across multiple targets as well. They like dragon slaying, and they're going to take down Siphon for breakfast, I believe. Even though Siphon does manage to get a little bit of a chomp off, and Temlozz, who's a little less health, it's still going to be an ultra dominant Tiaan, who's going to jump right back to 99 HP.
Oh my gosh, amazing stuff. And this is with an Olaf who doesn't even have any kind of spatula as yet. We don't even know if they'll end up even running one, ultimately. We've seen them with Cavalier, we've seen them with Assassin, but perhaps straight up face punch is the way to go. Laser Octopus does find the 2-star Corki, though. We've got a few different 2-stars across the field, so our players are starting to put their foot down to accelerate towards the late game.
It certainly looked early on like Laser wasn't going to make their way to Dragon. Now they're all but assured of at least being able to get those extra few items and avoid the embarrassment of that early defeat. They're still in a little bit of a difficult position, and they've got to be praying to the RNG gods here in our auto chess favorite, because if they come up against Tiaan anytime soon, that is going to be bad news bears.
And I think that was a really good point being brought up by, who was it in the Twitch chat? The TT Sen in the chat was making a really good point that because Tiaan is very close to 100 HP, if they do manage to find a Soraka, they are going to destroy everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as soon as that, for those who are maybe unaware of the second part of the Star Caller ability, basically if you're already at 100 HP, rather than restoring your little legend, you just remove one unit from play from your enemy's board. And that is so insanely powerful, especially if you get something like a blue buff where you're instantly casting as that Soraka. Big moment for Laser Octopus as they see what their final Dragon Horde is going to be.
They really need to get this Corki up and itemized. The big problem for them here is they've currently only got the Hand of Justice as a solo item. Zeke's Herald would certainly fit pretty well, but not really with the items they have.
I'd be tempted to take the sparring gloves here and just accept these gloves.
Oh boy, they will go for it. So yeah, I think desperate times, desperate measures. So expect to see, yes, okay, at least we got one irrelevant item coming in and a stronger front line. The Zeke's will be able to allow for our sort of 3 carries set up at the back. Lulu will be able to get the further buff through. I think Laser, given the amount of gold they had, that was the best decision they could have made right then.
And yet again, Twitch chat coming in as our prime observers. We're running a two-man show at the minute, so we appreciate all the extra little bits of help you're giving us out there, everybody, and showing us that Tiaan did indeed take a loss on the last one, dropping to 88 HP, now restored to 90, courtesy of the free dragon round. And that does mean that those potential Soraka executions won't be coming quite so thick and fast. They'll have to get another 5 victories under their belt before they can start thinking about that.
Oh, there we go. TT Sen is officially a caster because they've cursed Tiaan. And a good shout out as well on staig, hitting the Shimmer Scale 9, which means the crown lays heavy on the brow. Basically the solo reason I think we saw the change out from Slicks away from Shimmer Scale is realizing that staig had laid claim. We'll keep an eye back on Laser Octopus though, because they are still 1 round from being eliminated, and this could be the round.
It could very well be. Siphon is doing some pretty horrible damage.
No!
Their second L of the day. Almost certainly out of contention for a top 3 now, sadly, for our top player from yesterday. Hopefully they continue to drive forward and try and push forward in our next few lobbies, but they and Temlozz have both left us with negative hit points at the end of that round.
Yeah, for Temlozz is not looking good either, with a 5th into a 7th, but we've still got players who are fighting tooth and nail. Fisk managing to hit the 2-star Yasuo, and also very close to a 2-star Xiaoyu as well. As you said, we didn't see the Jade do so well last time round, and we are back in a lobby with Olaf in the mix, so fascinating to see how this lines up against Tiaan's board.
Oh man, having to lock that shot feels painful, just being 2 HP away, knowing that even if you get the win here, you're not going to be able to pick up the Xiaoyu just afterwards, just maybe being 1 or even 2 short. Very, very frustrating. Also means you're lacking the damage on that dragon slaying carry. One of the dragons they're going to have to slay here is Deja, who's hitting from the back line pretty hard. We'll have the execute damage coming through from the crits as well, and that's going to be enough to see brubbba looking pretty strong, taking down the Xiaoyu, who does not manage to get the ult, and one last 30k damage coming out of Yasuo onto a Jade statue. You love to see it.
Taking out the trash. I mean, brubbba, our first place finish from last time round. No surprise at all to see them fighting strongly out of the late game. They have hit 8 Mirage, which means that they are going to be critting every single time they attack with anything. The only problem here is that they don't have the best Nunu at all. And their front line is relatively weak. They're relying entirely on a one-star Nunu and a 1-star Yasuo to get the time that Deja needs to kill everybody.
Well, they did just hit the 2-star on Deja, as was seen there, and so let's see if that is going to be effective up against rovskagg, who we haven't seen too much of since quickly checking in on their Shimmer Scale. The Shimmer Scale items are absolutely electric for them, but Deja is doing work from the back line, buying a little bit of time. Lulu holding the fort down with that trap just attacks in their place. One more ultimate might be enough to remove a couple of items, but I don't think Deja's going to be able to equalize the odds against the Zoe, who's fully itemized and fully ripping through the remaining health of brubbba.
Yeah, the tacticians, sorry, not the tacticians, rather the Crown of Command, which is in place for Zoe at the end there, it kind of tends to go off 3 or 4 times in a round and just kill 3 or 4 units. I think when you've got it yourself, you feel like it's not effective because it's only taking out kind of junk units on the front line a lot of the time. But once it gets to the late game, it gives you the most ridiculous inevitability that you just will win if the round goes long.
And that's pretty much what happened there. And now we see 2 players, Slicks, brubbba, both on the edge of execution, both of them knowing that they are so close to picking up just the 4 or the 3-point marker, which does not help you towards pushing towards the final 3 at the end of the day. We are having what word would you use? A little a juggling around of the lobbies after this game, where we're going to get to see 4 players from this lobby up against 4 players from our other lobby that's going on simultaneously. That in itself provides a new opportunity. There are some players who maybe struggled against their current competition, maybe because their favorite things were contested. Maybe that changes up a little bit and we can see some fortunes changing going towards games 3 and number 4, but still you want to be picking up as many points as possible. Doesn't look good for Slicks and brubbba right now. They're facing off against each other. Could be a fight to the death. Final sparks coming in, but not doing any damage to the Deja, who is rinsing the health bars. Brubbba takes out Slicks.
Yeah, amazing news for brubbba. You know, as we said before, the rest of the tournament are definitely looking for our top players like brubbba and Joshi Chan to do poorly in their games to open up the field of competition a lot more. brubbba even moving up 1 stage at this point is very good indeed. For Slicks, they see they had the 4th before with the 5th, no, with the 6th now. It isn't a great foundation to build a run on, but not completely out of contention either.
Mirage 8, but only Cavalier 3, so not entirely optimized here for brubbba, but still going to be doing some pretty significant damage. And as we come towards this next round, they want to hold off long enough to be able to get their hands on whatever juicy item is waiting for them come the next stage. Will they be able to survive the 3-star Olaf though? Tiaan has dropped a significant amount of health. I believe this is the ghost version of it, but we can see just how much it does. That is an Olaf that is ripping through all sundry. The Yasuo barely survives for a second. Deja, however, is able to get the perfectly timed ultimate off. Brubbba defeats a ghost and progresses through to the neutral round.
I guess he did have a ghost of a chance. Frozak, though, is in trouble, having taken a fairly big loss on a loss streak as well. A pretty terrifying position to be in at this point in the game, but they've at least made it through to get the one extra item in. Unfortunately, well, I don't know if this is unfortunate necessarily, their Ao Shin carry is fully itemized right now, and maybe this goes onto the rise instead.
I feel like if they see another Ao Shin, they'll probably sell off the Ao Shin, get rid of the Bloodthirster, and pop the Giant Slayer on. Unless you're in a position where you're guaranteed to be able to get 2-star Ao Shin, maybe they're just going to burn through a load of gold in the hope of being able to secure a unit that can keep them in the game. Either that or they can use that gold to just level up, and that actually is exactly what we're going to see to try and maximize the opportunity to get more Aos.
All right, so we got the 2 miss again. In fact, we're going to be seeing that switched out, I imagine, for Bard, which, while we've got 2 Aurelian Souls in the shot, which is always a little bit of a troll for when you're playing the other big, scary AP dragon, I suppose, well, putting it Shyvana aside for a second, that does at least end us up with a decent spot for that Giant Slayer. We've now got 2 Zeeks and the Trap Claw to be able to enable this Zoe to make a big impact.
So we'll take the Giant Slayer, but I'm still a little concerned by the BT. Yeah, there's extra attack speed on the Ao Shin, but that's not exactly what you want apart from building up towards your ultimate. We are going to see the battle between brubbba and Frozak. Someone is going to be going out in 5th place on the back of this fight. Ao Shin needing to hit that ultimate, needing to hit it right now. It needs to be effective onto Deja. It rinses through the opposition dragon. Could be enough to turn this fight with Zoe landing multiple knockups onto the Cavalier Yasuo. Maybe, just maybe, this is enough to see the end of brubbba. Only Yasuo standing between him and a 5th place win. Last Breath comes in, but with a second Ao Shin ultimate, that's all she wrote. Frozak drops out. Brubbba drops out. Frozak progresses.
All right, so there we go. That is the good news. The tournament has been hoping for. Brubbba will not put down 2 first places together.
2 Zoes in the shot there, immediately getting up to the 2-star. That is what you like to see if you're Frozak trying to hold on for more points.
Oh boy. So yeah, Frozak picking up the 6th before. This will be huge for them if they can claw the way through. We know that Tiaan is still on top of the table, 73. Not the completely impossible 100 HP we thought they might be on at this point in the game. But with Fiska on a win streak as well, this is a big ask. Now up against the Scale Score 9 comp. Is Frozak good enough to get past top 4?
Frozak has so much damage here, but we have now got more of these mages online. Ao Shin able to get 1 ultimate off, rip through some key targets last time, able to do the same again this time. Yasuo still beating down, able to get onto the crucial target that is the Ao Shin, but with the Bloodthirster shield coming in, that's actually enough to buy time for that Justice healing to come in. Yasuo surely not able to deal with this one. Only Daisy standing between Frozak and another win. It's going to was a secondary Daisy for a moment, but no, that was just the Zoe of Frozak summoning up a beast of their own.
All right, I'm liking what we're seeing from Frozak here. It does feel like they can test for top 3, maybe even higher. The big elephant in the room, though, is Fisk, who is still on that 5-round win streak. The Yasuo, too, I think, doing a ton of work. And again, we're seeing redemption for Jade in this game after really falling off a cliff last time round, where we would have expected them to fly. This is, again, a lobby where we've got the Scale Scorn taking place, and now we've even got a Pike 2 for Tiaan.
The difference between
Fisk keep this up.
I was just going to say, the difference between this one and the last time where we saw Jade fall on its face a little bit, I think it was with Frozak, is the fact they've been able to get that Jade emblem onto the Yasuo, which provides that extra damage carrier. Suddenly you've got dual damage coming out of the Shiryu, out of the Yasuo, and it does good work. It's now trying to fight up against this Ao Shin, which we've seen be deadly across the last 3 rounds, and it has that Bloodthirster, which even though I don't like in terms of the healing, in terms of the auto attacks, the shield has kept it alive, not once, but now twice as we see it get poked down there. Enough to get another ultimate out, and that's why Frozak Frozak keeps picking up wins. That's genius itemization.
All right, so it means everyone will be humbled on the way to the finish line. Yeah, maybe Frozak could even go for the first here. We have got some pretty decent items. Edge of Night, as you noted, the replacement for the Guardian Angel, certainly a key to getting past some of these massive bursts. We've got Fisk and we've got Staig both down on 1 life. Frozak is slowly building their way up to 2.
Frozak is looking in a strong spot all of a sudden. I thought they were going to be dropping out much sooner than they do now. However, on the back of a few wins and with that star caller in as well, suddenly the health is actually trickling back up so much so, as you say, they claw their way into second. Tiaan, who moments ago was on 60-something HP, is now down to 45 and actually being clawed back by the rest of the group. The Olaf hasn't necessarily fallen off, but not having the Diana 3-star alongside it, definitely hurting their cause.
All right, we're just going to jump to the other players playing here because one of these two is going to die as a result of this round. Keep your eye out for the Xiaoyu churning their way through the field. Of course, Staig with the crown at the back corner will be eliminating 1 unit every 5 seconds. I think that's going to be good enough here to get past Fisk.
It might well be. Yasuo trying to do their best work, and they're actually putting down a huge amount of damage. We do see another dropout. It is going to be Fisk on. rovskagg gets through to the final 3. Frozak, however, continues their win streak off screen, taking Tiaan down to 36 HP.
Oh boy, I honestly am really amazed. I mean, Frozak, of course, they had the amazing luck of getting all of those Zoes turn up at the same time in the shop. But where they are right now, they've had to really thread the needle to get to this point.
They have, and they have done it so very well. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, mainly because I'm repeating myself at this point. I just feel the need to call out how important that Bloodthirster has been on the Ao Shin. Of course, there are better items that maybe could have got them to ult soon or to restore more health, but the fact they've had that shield has twice enabled them to cast the 1 extra time they needed for the victory. It's literally kept them alive in this game, and that's where knowing what items can do for you really, really pays off, just making all that difference. Here we see an interesting fight as the Yasuo is trying to claw down onto the opposition, and it could be the end of the line for rovskagg. This is going to be a crucial blow. Big 30k damage coming out of the Yasuo, and that's another loss for Tiaan.
This is amazing based on what we've seen before. Tiaan has been humbled in this late game by, I think, when we're working with 3-star or 3-cost rerolls, you are going to be working on a timer of saying, you're never going to be having a 3-star 3-cost who's going to be as strong as the eventual end game kind of comps we can put together here. So I think Tiaan is in real danger despite everything we've seen so far of coming in 3rd.
I'd be genuinely surprised if they didn't. The one thing that I think could turn their fortunes is the fact that we've not seen Frozak versus rovskagg for a long time. I expect it to be the next matchup. I genuinely don't know who wins that one. rovskagg seems like they've got everybody's number with this 9 shimmer scale, but we've kind of been able to say the same thing about what the Ao Shin has been doing as Frozak hits the Soraka 2 as well. So some big upgrades coming in. If Frozak faces off against rovskagg here, it could be a saving grace of Tiaan if they can take down the shimmer scale giant.
Well, they need just 1 more Idis to put them up to 3. I think I'm going to start selling Zoes at this point to make that possible, because right, this is the very edge of annihilation. Staig doesn't commit in everything to get the Idis 3. Instead, holds back, apparently confident enough they're going to get to see another round.
Yeah, here we go. Big damage coming out. Final spark rips through. Zoe already starting to look for those eliminations of the units and not being able to take out any of the key carries just yet. Ao Shin on the backline already throwing down the 1 ultimate, removing a few targets. We'll be able to get a second one on the back of this knockup, but they've already got damage turned towards their attention. Justice is going to get a little bit of a heal, but it's not enough. Frozak, that was actually Frozak's go, so doesn't take a loss there. Instead, facing off against Tiaan deals yet more damage to our former top player who drops down to 9 health. Frozak continues their win streak, but we now know what happens when they go against rovskagg, and it might not be good.
I think it's time to feel the lightning. Frozak hits the Ao Shin 2. They were unstoppable before, now doubly so. I think really now Tiaan and Staig, they're fighting for the 2nd place instead.
Oh, I can hear Andrea Bocelli singing in my ear. Bit of Conte Partiro. It could be time to say goodbye to Tiaan.
All right, we'll try and keep track of where our player is. It's going to be... Right, so we will see the Shimmer Scale going up. There is still no Idas 3. The Zoe's worst sold. Staig commits in everything. Doesn't get paid off. Now has to deal with the power of the 2-star Aoshin.
Big stun coming in. The Tempered Fate catches, but the ultimate goes off from Aoshin, and it rips through everybody apart from the Yasuo, who's doing everything they can, but with single target damage. I don't think they're going to be able to turn this one round. Another ultimate comes through, takes down the Bard, takes down the Yasuo. Tiaan is going to... is Tiaan still going? How's Tiaan getting on? Tiaan going up against the Shimmer Scale Ghost. We've already seen the Shimmer Scale die, but they are going to pick up a win for their master in Ghost form. The HP will matter. Tiaan drops to -9. I think it's a second place for Tiaan and a third place for rovskagg.
Oh my gosh. You've certainly got to feel a little bit sore when you do hit the dream of the Shimmer Scale comp, but it still doesn't get you the win in the end. Still though, that was again one